Good morning, SMPS Oregon. My name is Maisha Hagan. I'm the owner and head coach at Beauty and the Boss, a professional development and career coaching service for women in male-dominated industries, and I'm excited to be with you here today for our third and final installment of Coffee Chats, Rise and Grind, where we will be talking about the 5 bases of power. It's been a minute since we've been together, so I think we should revisit our learning objectives. After today's session, you should be able to better understand why you are influenced by other people. You should be able to better recognize your own natural sources of power and how you tend to influence others. You'll continue to build your leadership skills by using and developing your own sources of power appropriately and for the best effect and outcome. And lastly, I want to help you develop strategies so that you know how to respond to other people's style of influence. As a review, remember that positional power is about where you are in the organization, and personal power is about who you are in the organization. Today, we'll be talking about referent power, which is a personal form of power. Also keep in mind that we'll be talking about how to respond to others with the intention of building rapport, confidence, and trust. Because when we build a foundation of rapport, confidence, and trust, we build a great baseline to be able to influence people both now and in the future. So very quickly, let's review the 4 previous powers that we've discussed. Legitimate power is about what your title is and where you are in an organization, and it is a positional type of power. As you may recall, one pro of legitimate power is that as you increase or move up within an organization, your power also increases. The con of legitimate power is that if you lose your position, you also, unfortunately, lose the power and the authority associated with that position. It's also good to remember that the best way to respond to someone leveraging legitimate power is by showing them respect. Reward power is also a positional type of power, and it is about what I can do for you to influence you towards certain action or behaviors. One pro of reward power is that it is incredibly effective in the short term. So remember we talked about the application being contests, surveys, things that really lean upon urgency for a response. If you use reward power over the long term, you inevitably have to increase the value of the prize or the reward in order to keep people engaged and motivated. The best response to someone leveraging reward power is gratitude and reciprocation. Coercive power is also a positional form of power, and it is typically about what I can do to you in order to get you to change your behavior or outcomes. How should you respond to someone who leverages coercive power, either by fight or flight? Remember that a big part of that depends on the culture of the organization or team. And lastly, we discussed expert power, which is a form of personal power. Remember that when you have knowledge and skills that enable you to understand a situation, suggest solutions, use solid judgment, and generally outperform others, people will probably listen to you. One pro of expert power is that you can learn anything. One con of expert power is that if leveraged too aggressively or too frequently, you may discourage people from contributing ideas and perspectives that lead to a better idea or outcome. For our time together, we're going to be talking about referent power, which is the last and final type of power, and it is also personal power. Referent power is closely related to or similar to charisma. It's the thing that makes us just feel like, I like this person. I like what they're about. I like what they stand for. They are just good people. And I like supporting them and I like being associated with them. I just like what they're about. I think they're funny. I think they're charming. I think they're classy. I think they're brilliant. I think they're powerful. In our current day and age, one way that this really shows up is with influencers. So think about how influencers many times don't have credentialing to make them successful in a particular area. They just have that special something. And that special something that we are reacting or responding to is referent power. The predecessor to the age of influencers is the age of advertisement. And this is where we have seen most referent power used. And traditionally, advertisers and marketing understood that if I can take the persona of a person, a celebrity, an athlete, a politician, and I can get people to associate or project that onto a product or a service, then I can sell more stuff. So if you like Katy Perry, you may be more likely to pay attention to Pop's chips. If you are a big fan of Oprah Winfrey and you trust the things that she recommends or promotes, then you're more likely to choose Weight Watchers over Jenny Craig. And although Cardi B may not be someone that stands out on your radar, by utilizing her image and her persona, they could be introducing Pepsi to a whole new generation of consumers. The principle that they're hacking is referent power. Another pro of referent power is that the persona or the imagery or the communication that is put out to the world can be curated. So think about a museum or an art gallery. In both places, there is a curator who is picking unique or particular pieces of art, particular statues, particular installations that come together to tell a story or create an experience for gallery visitors. And in that same way, we can apply that same principle to our marketing and communication efforts, right? So think about situations where the photography that you pick, the terminology that you use, even the presentation of your logo and your branding, all of these are communicating out a level of value, a level of referent power, so that when people see those things or interact, they have a certain experience or feeling that in essence, they say, I like this company. Think about it also in the relation to who is the face of your company or who is the face of your team or your department. And is that person someone that when others like clients or media engage with, they have a very positive reaction and response to? And also think about this in application to your own personal or professional branding. An easy association of that for us is social media. The imagery you put out, the words that you use to describe yourself and the work you do, all of it speaks. And in essence, you can curate that to create a look, a feel, an experience, and an emotional response from the people that engage with it. The final pro of referent power is that if things kind of get derailed and go south, that sometimes, many times, you can recover. So thinking about Robert Downey Jr., who has a very troubled past and who is now one of the most popular characters in the Marvel universe. He went from drugs and alcohol and drunk driving and prison time to being very stable and successful. And for most people now, when they think of Robert Downey Jr., they don't think at all about his past, but they think about the great successes that he's had over the last 10 years. Mr. Downey Jr. is actually quite fortunate because more and more now we are starting to see the adoption and propagation of cancel culture, right? And that really is a con of referent power because one misstep and you could lose all of the trust, all of the confidence, and all of the rapport that you built with people or with the public almost overnight. I used to put up pictures of people here in this slide. One time I made a huge misstep by putting up a picture of the gentleman from Subway. And people literally had a physical, visceral response to that image. So I don't do that anymore. But even just telling that story, you get that feeling of what happens when someone goes from being someone that you kind of like and respect and have this image of, and then a reality or another perception comes out that conflicts with that. Currently, cancel culture is a big thing in our society, but it's not a new thing. It's just something that now has a terminology. And although we think of it mostly as it relates to those, brands and those people and those personas like celebrities and actors, individuals within communities or within teams can also be victims of cancel culture should they misstep and lose their referent power. It's for this reason that you should not try to operate or grow your career or grow your business solely based on being the cool kid in the crowd. But you need receipts and proof of the value that you're bringing beyond just being a pretty face. So how should you respond when someone is leveraging referent power towards you? The best response to referent power is admiration and support. That when someone who is operating out of referent power wants to include you in their party, they want to include you in their group, they want to make you an insider VIP, then in order to build rapport, trust, and confidence, the best reaction is admiration and support. The easiest way to do this is to accept the invitations that people with referent power extend to you. So whether that's an invitation for lunch or to a networking event or to help support with a meeting, by saying yes to them, you are acknowledging that this is the kind of power that they're leveraging, and you're paying them back with the currency that they value most. So we've gone through the 5 types of power now over the last 3 months, and hopefully you've been able to identify and be more aware of situations and circumstances where these dynamics are happening either within you towards other people or in your environment. But I think it would be super helpful for us to just talk about what some real life applications of these principles could be. So one application is establishing authority in dynamic settings or teams. I'm thinking of situations like kickoff meetings for proposals or presentation training where you need to establish that you are not the note taker, but that you are the expert, that this is your job, this is what you do. And think about what type of power could that be? Could be legitimate power, right? That you hold the title, the position, and the place as the marketing expert in the room. And in the same way that we don't tell people how to engineer, we're asking them not to tell us how to do our job as well, right? I don't tell you how to superintend. Don't tell me how to write. Don't tell me how to manage a project. Don't tell me about social media, right? Is that expert power? Is that me being too much? I don't know. We're working through it. Another real life application could be in managing your direct report or as a direct report being managed by someone else. Because ultimately, this is a set of tools that you can have at your disposal so that you know how to provide feedback in a meaningful way. It's also super helpful because people are motivated differently, right? Some people just really need to be incentivized for to go that extra level. Other people sometimes need to be threatened. But whatever it is now, you at least have a scope of reference to be able to say, this is where I'm starting from, and this is why. So in most cases, I would say you probably don't want to start with coercive, but you may over time move there if someone is very resistant to other types of feedback or types of influence, that you may have to go there if they're unresponsive to other types of power or influence. I think the 5 bases of power are extremely helpful when you're leading meetings, even if you are just participating in a meeting, because sometimes there's a weird dynamic happening in the room and it's not spoken, but you can feel it. And this learning could give you a filter to decipher what is happening um, in the unspoken, and then give you insight as to how you follow up in the post meeting or how you conduct yourself in the actual meeting. Communicating with others, so absolutely setting expectations about what you want from other people, and also what you're able to contribute to a team or to a project. Think about how you can use this for conflict resolution. That rather than kind of amping up every single time, you're able to kind of meet a person where they are, diffuse whatever that craziness is, and get to the real core of the issue. As a career coach, I absolutely use this framework of thinking and filtering when I'm helping my clients prepare for negotiation conversations, because understanding the power dynamic that you're navigating is key. And lastly, but certainly not least, is how do these types of powers come into play in our business? How we incentivize clients to complete surveys, how we incentivize employees to show up at volunteer events. How do we address when people go rogue in their behavior? What are the words, imagery, and terminology that we use in our marketing and corporate communications? What's the reputation of our firm, and how is it associated with the reputation of the individuals of that firm? These are just a few examples of the real life applications of the 5 bases of power. I want to give a shout out to your chapter leadership for coming up with this very unique idea. I have really enjoyed pulling together this content to share with you. The only thing I hate is that I'm not here with you live and in action to participate in the conversations. But here's my invitation to you. I would love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn and just share a quick message about how you have benefited from this session and from this content. And if there are ways that I can help you apply this specifically to your job or to your role, then I would love to have that conversation with you as well. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope that you feel more empowered to show up as your best self in the work that you do every day. Once again, it's been my pleasure to share this information with you. I hope to hear from you soon, and have a great day.